Object counting analytics is based on the line crossing and sterile area analytics that we reviewed earlier. Using this analytics type, we can count all three object categories. A reaction can be triggered when the number of objects crossing a line or detected within an area exceeds a defined threshold. In addition, reports can be generated and viewed by, for example, a shop owner to analyze visitor statistics based on object counting.
Before we move on to configuring the camera for object counting, let's first see how this type of analytics works in real time. In this example, we see a person crossing the line in the opposite direction, which decreases the number of people inside the building and updates the entry and exit statistics accordingly. When the person returns and crosses the line again, the same logic applies, and the counters change to reflect the new totals. Object counting analytics can be configured either on the camera itself or when the camera is connected to an NVR, preferably through the NVR's interface. For this demonstration, we'll start by setting it up using the camera's web interface. Navigate to the Analytics section, select Object Counting by Line, enable the feature, and configure it to detect humans. In the Area section, draw the counting line and define the direction of counting. If required, you can also schedule when the counting rule is active by specifying the relevant days of the week and operating hours. Now let's switch to configuring object counting through the NVR interface. The main benefit of this approach is that the NVR can trigger various reactions, such as push notifications, alarm outputs, and sound alerts when a predefined counting threshold is reached, and it can also generate periodic reports sent via email. Locate the camera we configured earlier in the Connected Cameras list on the NVR. Open the Object Counting screen where you can see that all the settings defined through the camera's web interface are reflected here. Let's configure the NVR to send a periodic CSV report to a predefined email address. The report can be sent on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. For weekly reports, you can select a specific day of the week on which the report will be sent, and for monthly reports, you can define the day of the month when the report is emailed to the selected address. We can define the exact time at which the report will be sent to the email account. In this case, for example, 1 minute from now. Below that, we specify the recipient's email address that will receive the report files. The counter can be reset periodically, and below, you can specify exactly when the reset should take place. Sending these reports by email is possible only if the email settings are properly configured in the NVR. These settings can be found in the Email Setup screen within the Network section. For more details on configuring email settings, please refer to the relevant video tutorial on our YouTube channel. The scheduled time has arrived, and the NVR has sent all three reports, daily, weekly, and monthly. Let's open them and see how they look. To convert this report into a more readable format, we can change all the cells to numeric values and generate a chart from the selected data. By removing days with no activity, we obtain a clean chart that clearly represents the data for a day, week, or month. More advanced charting and analysis in Excel can be used to generate easy-to-understand, commercially oriented reports. These reports help business owners identify the most active days in their shop and make informed decisions about when to increase or reduce staffing levels to better serve their customers. Local reports can also be generated directly from the camera's web interface. This does not require a memory card, as the counting data is stored in the camera's internal flash memory. You can define a counting area, and after collecting data for a few days, open the Chart tab on the camera to select the time period for which you want to generate the charts. Now let's configure the NVR to react when a predefined counting threshold is reached. When this occurs, we can use the full range of response options available on the NVR. Let's start by enabling the camera we used earlier to trigger a reaction when the number of people crossing the line exceeds 23. When this threshold is reached, the NVR should send a push notification to the Cam2 app and generate an email notification with a snapshot of the event. In addition, the NVR should trigger its alarm output, which can be connected to an external siren to indicate, for example, that too many people are present inside the building. Once another person enters the building and the count increases to 24, exceeding the threshold defined earlier, the system triggers a push notification to the app and sends an email with a snapshot of the entering person. At the same time, the on-screen display message changes to "Please wait." This allows people waiting in line to clearly see that no additional entries are permitted until the occupancy level drops. Let's create a demonstration for detecting too many vehicles in a parking lot and triggering a response. First, define a detection polygon in the area where vehicles should be counted. Configure the rule to activate when more than 2 vehicles are present in the counting area and set a time threshold of 5 seconds. This prevents the system from reacting to vehicles that briefly enter the area, such as those making a U-turn or stopping only momentarily. We can customize the OSD messages and their position within the frame. In the trigger section, we configure the NVR to respond with a sound alert, for example, to notify a security guard, trigger an alarm on the camera itself using a siren or another sound notification, display a full-screen pop-up, and send a push notification. To configure audio notifications on the NVR or on a connected camera, you can use this interface within the NVR. Let's test this setup. You can see that the NVR is currently displaying a 4-camera split layout, and the configured camera is detecting 2 vehicles within the polygon. This is because an adjacent vehicle is positioned close to the detection area and its bounding box is touching the polygon. As a result, only 2 vehicles are currently being counted in the area. A reaction will be triggered only when a 3rd vehicle enters the polygon and remains there for longer than the defined 5-second threshold, at which point the configured responses will be activated.
No more parking. Please leave the area.
In the advanced section of object counting, we can reset the counter either manually or according to a predefined schedule, similar to what we covered earlier.